well. In fact, how about this? Shouts to our CBS Sports research team. So Kansas posted a third straight monster second half to do it. Third straight game, Kansas scored 40 or more in the second half. So down the stretch, regional final, Saturday, national semi, title game on Monday, Kansas was a second half team, 40 plus after the break each time. What does that speak to? It speaks to Bill Self and his coaching acumen, his coaching ability. I'm gonna write my title game column once we're done podcasting here. And you know, I had a coach text me in a power conference literally as the game is ending. I got my computer up. I got, it's linked up to my iMessage, and he says, the best coach in our game. And that's really the reality of it, is a lot of coaches regard Self as a tactician, and how he manipulates a game, adjusts the stuff he draws up, his ability to call up a play that Kansas will not have run in the past 15, 20 games, that kind of stuff. A lot of coaches think Self is actually the best one actively in the game going, and if not that, he's obviously top 3, top 5. And I thought the second half comeback spoke to his ability. He's not going to take all the credit for it. Players deserve plenty of it, but I actually thought it was a bit of a Bill Self special for him to get his team in that spot, make the adjustments, and wind up getting a 3-point win.
Roy Williams retires after last season. Mike Krzyzewski retires after this season. Now, unless I'm blanking on somebody, Jay Wright, Bill Self have multiple national titles. No other active coach does. That's correct, right?
Yeah, Shaq can fact check.
No,
some
Rick
real
Pitino.
time here.
Rick Pitino. I'm sorry.
But is it Pitino? Pitino, does he have? He won 2, but like the Louisville one was vacated. So for
Rick
official
Pitino
purposes,
won 2. I don't care about that. Rick Pitino won 2 national titles. Yeah,
fair
so
enough.
there's three coaches in college basketball Division I who have won multiple national titles. And I guess technically speaking, you could call Rick the best active coach. I'm fine with that. I guess my point is this: of power conference coaches, I don't think there's anybody with a better resume at this point than Bill Self. Of guys who are currently working in power conferences, I'm not sure anybody has a better resume than Bill Self. 2 national titles, 4 Final Fours, 20 conference championships, 10 conference tournament championships. And like, I think it's important to point out what he did this with. As soon as I tweet final score, Kansas 72, North Carolina 69, Bill Self is now the 16th coach in Division I men's basketball history to win multiple national titles. You can guess what the replies look like, right? Cheating this, NCAA that, level 1 violations. I think it's important to understand what he won this championship with. Ochai Agbaji was like ranked outside of the top 200 in his high school class. Christian Brown was just a guy. Remy Martin was a good high school prospect, but like he's a transfer from Arizona State. DeJuan Harris. This is not some roster filled with McDonald's All-Americans and or future lottery picks. I mean, Ochai is, as you learned on the last podcast, but the rest of those guys are not. This is not the most talented team in the country. It's not one of Bill Self's most talented teams, or I think, in many ways, one of his best. But he won this one because he's a great coach, like a great coach. Like I work with, some former coaches who, don't love a lot of the stuff that came out in the FBI scandal. By definition, if I work with a coach, he's a former coach, probably one who got fired at some point for not winning enough. And so they don't love that the sport has been riddled with, people who have either broken the rules themselves or had other people / shoe companies do it for them. They don't love that. But I will tell you, I have never heard a coach ever talk about Bill Self without saying the guy's really a great coach. Like, did Adidas help Kansas at some point? Yeah, sure, whatever. But but man, that guy's a great coach. And I think not that he needed to solidify that on Monday night, but I think he certainly did. To be able to make whatever adjustments he made at halftime and get Kansas first back into the game and then, get Kansas a national title. The guy I'll take it a step further. I think he's an all-time great college basketball coach.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely the case. No doubt about it. In winning his second, by the way, these are the coaches that have exactly 2 on their dossier ever. Crum finished with 2. Donovan, 2, obviously. Hank Iba had 2. Ed Jucker, Branch McCracken, Dean Smith finished with 2. Phil Wolpert and Jay Wright are the ones that have 2 national titles, exactly 2, no more, no less, to their name there. And I just want to, mention again the fact that Jalen Wilson, Christian Brown, David McCormick, Remy Martin going really good in the second half after being out of sorts all over the place in the first half. They pulled it together in a really significant way. And this is not one of the 5 most talented, 7 or 8 most talented teams that Kansas has had so many loaded teams, so many. And to me, one of my biggest takeaways from this outcome, Parrish, is that to what we're talking about with Self, how he's regarded, when you're that good, if you stay in the game, you usually like this seemed like it was going to happen again eventually. So long as Self decided to keep on coaching, keep on pushing at it, he's at Kansas. The break is going to come your way. And that speaks to more to, yes, the place he coaches at and his coaching ability. But the NCAA tournament's a tough deal. Getting to a Final Four is extremely hard. Winning a national championship, it's as agonizing as it is glorious in how difficult it is. But when you're a coach as good as Self, it's like being a golfer as good as, Phil Mickelson. I won't call him Tiger Woods because Tiger Woods is on a different, realm altogether, and Self isn't the greatest coach in the history of the sport. We all know that's Mick Cronin. Right. But if you are at it for that long, I just think his second title was inevitable at some point here. Get your NCAA jokes in, and I completely get it and absolutely go after it. But, it's not surprising. And, even though I didn't know you in 2008, if I had walked up to you in 2008 and said, hey, we're going to work together one day and you're not going to have hair. And I said, how long do you think it'll take for Bill Self to get a second national title, or do you think he will? You absolutely would have said, oh, of course, like he's going to be. Bill Self's going to get to a second championship. And you probably said, I don't know when it'll happen, but, probably be in the next, 5 to 10 years, maybe. Who knows? It could be next year. Took longer than expected, but the result here is just not all that surprising. He feels like a coach that should have multiple national championships the same way Jay Wright is. And he finally reached that accomplishment here tonight. And you can now officially call him, many Kansas fans consider this already, but he's the greatest coach in the history of Kansas basketball. And so because of that, he becomes one of the greatest coaches in the history of college basketball, period.